Hello gorgiosities, how are you all doing today? I hope you're well. I'm boiling. You're joining me in what is getting to be an even steamier, hotter London. Boy oh boy, summer is well and truly here. It's actually more of a summer than we are used to. Although having said that, over the last few years we do seem to have had, the odd week or so like this, when all you'll hear from Brits is, it's too hot. You know what, it is hot, and it's kind of a bit uncomfortably hot, but when I'm outside in the garden in this heat and sunshine, oh, I just love it. Proper summer baby. There is something about city heat though, isn't there? I'm going to have lots of water as we're chatting today, and I also have my my brown mopper. It's just one of my handkerchiefs. It's a clean one, but honestly, it's so humid, just sweating all the time. And I'd rather mop my brow a little than have sweat running down my face. Anyone who wears spectacles will know about this. Claudia was mentioning it to me the other day in a message as well, that when we're in our gardens and we're really getting hot and sweaty, our glasses just slip off our noses. That's one thing. Or if we're bent over, I think this was the case when I was doing the tomato planting, because I'm bent over, I'm dripping with sweat, and the sweat is dripping down into my lenses. Can't see a thing. Just have to abandon glasses in the garden. Yeah, I love it, I embrace it, but it does sap the energy after a while, and I think, look, it's the sort of beautiful weather that's perfect for just sitting outside in a slightly shady spot with a breeze and a book. It's holiday weather, is the bottom line, isn't it? It's not the weather for working in. I'm so glad. Oh, I am so glad I don't have to do the commute into London anymore, because an hour and a half, pretty much, on a bus with no aircon and no windows to open is no fun. So I do feel for folk, and I empathise for anyone who loathes this kind of weather. I get it. I'm trying to enjoy it and embrace it because it won't last long. That being said, I think there is something about city heat. It just feels more oppressive and stuffy somehow. And if I was at the beach right now, I wouldn't be like this anyway, because I'd be in the sea. I guess that's why, half of not half, but the rich who can afford it of New York disappear to the Hamptons in the summer, isn't it? And why half of Paris disappears in the summer to go off to Brittany or wherever else they go to. So it is hot. What am I doing to cool down? And this kind of ties in with the other things I want to chat about today, about just trying to reduce our energy consumption even a little tiny bit, just to try and help us bring our bills down, which is going to be especially important this winter, because I think the next price cap will go up. I think it's at the end of October. Don't forget to do your meter reading on the last day of October, so you don't get charged the new rate for any of your usage before in October. So yeah, I think something that surprises folk overseas, my North American friends, is that I don't have air conditioning here, and in actual fact in the UK, private homes generally do not have aircon. I guess a few more modern builds may have, but on the whole we just don't use air conditioning in the UK, because historically we haven't needed it. Our homes are built for keeping us warm in the winter. Our homes are built for a cool, damp climate. the climate we're starting to experience is more like one might think of in the Mediterranean. But even in the Mediterranean, aircon isn't, across every household. I was thinking about this the other day, about all my trips over the years to Greece and then further down into the Balkans, Croatia, Montenegro, Serbia, Albania, all these places that I've stayed that are hot. They're like this now. I've never stayed anywhere with air conditioning. In fairness, I don't stay in hotels. I've tended to stay in, a room rented in a farmhouse, or, a little cottage by the sea, whatever it is. But then if you look at the architecture in the Mediterranean, okay, I'm kind of generalising now, but bear with me. Thick walled houses. Those thick walls keep you warm in the winter, cool it in the summer. Gorgeous, great, chunky, thick walls. Smaller windows, again, keeping, the warmth in during the winter, heat out in the summer. Shutters. I'm sure many of you who've had a summer holiday, a trip somewhere in the Mediterranean, will have experienced that thing of, because we're not used to it, so our time clock, we haven't adjusted our time clock. But I'm sure there are many of you who will have had some lunch at 12:30 or whatever, and you've thought, oh, we'll have a little wander around the town, look in some shops, and from 1 o'clock, maybe 1:30 until about 4, even 5 o'clock, everything's shut. The doors are shut, the shutters are shut. They're all indoors having a siesta. But the thing about the shutters is it's keeping that blazing sun from getting into the building, but on the inside, the windows are open so that, there is a bit of a breeze. So yeah, we're not built, our homes aren't built for coping with this heat. And over the years, folk have said to me, oh, Vivi, you should get yourself a little air conditioning unit. You know what, I haven't. There's a couple of reasons. One, because that's quite an expense just for the sake of a few days of being uncomfortable in the heat. It is an expense. Two, how much does it cost to run aircon? I know one of you was mentioning on, I think it's the video, I can't remember which, someone was mentioning it to me anyway, a lady in the States, that she pays $300 a month in the summer to run her aircon. She's paying more to have her aircon on in the summer than I pay for 3 or 4 months for all my power. Crazy. So I've not gone the aircon route, both because of the expense of a unit and also the expense of running it. Such a short amount of time. Other folk have said to me, why don't you buy a fan? But again, it's like, why am I buying more stuff, just for the sake of a few days of, being uncomfortable? And again, running the fan on electricity. Now, all of my electricity, it's all renewables. So it's all, solar, wind. We don't really have tidal electricity in this country. I'm not going to go into politics. Let's just say we don't have tidal. So yeah, so I'm not, I have clean electricity, but I'm still going to have to pay the bills. So again, with the fan, But I do have a few little things I do. I've got some props, yay! And all of these things cost me nothing whatsoever. So I have here a clean tea towel. This is a dry one. And for example, one of my face flannels, one of my washcloths. So I haven't done this yet in the last few days because it's just not been bothering me that much yet. But when it gets to a stage when it's just too hot to even sleep at night, unbend my legs, I will soak about 4 or 5 tea towels, 4 or 5 face cloths, soak them in cold water, wring them out so they're not dripping but they're still really damp, get them all folded up, and then I put them in Tupperware boxes so it doesn't evaporate, and they go in the fridge. So they'll be in there all day because the fridge is on anyway, so I'm not using any extra electricity, And then when I go to bed, so, I mean, I sleep in the nud anyway, all year round, winter and summer. But in the summer, sheets off, duvet off, everything's off. I sometimes keep one sheet over me because, I don't know, there's something about wanting to pull a cover over you, isn't there? So it's sort of like a security thing. It's funny that, isn't it? Maybe that's kind of going back to our sort of primeval brain, and it's about, you have to excuse the noise, every window is open. Yeah, maybe it's something to do with being in the very back of a cave and covering yourself in animal pelts, I don't know. But anyway, a sheet. But then I go to bed, I get out one of my tea towels, and that, I just lay it on my body. So I lie there starfishing, one of those on my body, this folded in half, on my forehead, there you go. I'm done for the night. And usually that's enough to make me feel nice just before I go to bed, and it's just enough to let me get off to sleep. And then if I wake up a couple of hours later, they'll be bone dry. I think, oh, I'm hot. Just go to the fridge and get another pair out and do it all over again. But the other thing just before going to bed is, and I was mentioning this a few videos ago, that I save my bath water. So quite often I'll have yesterday's bath water, it'll still be in the bath. Really lovely temperature, it's not cold, that would be too much of a shock. And the thing about putting yourself into cold water, it is a real shock. And the body's kind of like, let's say, thermosensors all over our skin. The body, those sensors say to the body, oh my goodness, cold, 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 danger, danger, danger. Quick, we need to heat up our extremities. It's getting a little message. And so we flood the area, our capillaries open, get more blood, because our blood is warm, get more blood in those, like I say, that expand the capillaries, so the surface of the capillary is bigger, more blood warms you up. So all you do if you have a cold shower is you're going to tell your body it needs to warm itself up. It's the opposite of what we want to do. But yeah, my leftover bath water, it's not cold, it's cool, and quite often I just plonk myself in it, just get in the bath water, 10-15 minutes, it really helps cool things down. A quick pat dry, I don't want to rub because that creates heat, a pat dry into my bed with my tea towel and my washcloth. Doesn't cost me anything, and it's really nice, and you know, it cools me. The other thing, my spritzer, which I normally use when I'm ironing for doing my linens and fabrics, what have you, that will stay in the fridge. So then at bedtime, comes out the fridge, goes on my bedside table, quick little spritz all over. And to make the effect stronger if needs be, my lovely paper fan. Like even now, I don't have any water on me, but even without water, that's just delicious. Again, it doesn't cost anything. Can someone stand next to me and do this for the rest of the video? So, you know, there are ways that I find to keep myself nice and cool, well, not nice and cool, but cooler, that are certainly, you know, they're free. I'm not using any electricity. I'm not creating any more, you know, greenhouse gases by using a device which is chugging away on flipping coal-fired electricity plants, whatever they're called. So yeah, that all does for me, not costing me a penny. And like I say, the fact is, in the UK, it looks like we've maybe got 2 weeks of this weather, and that's survivable. Now obviously for some people this kind of weather is no joke, but I'm not talking about those, you know, more vulnerable people. Look out for them. I'm just talking about for me. And the other thing in my home, which is why we could hear that ambulance a second ago, is my windows all open like this. It might seem obvious, but what I mean is, rather than having sash windows that go up and down, or the kind of window that you push and it pushes out and up, they all open sideways. And because I've got windows on the front and back, what I found, there's a fine art to it, is as I'm opening the window, there's a moment, it's almost, they're like acting like sails. There's a moment of opening it and I can feel it's like, oh, it's caught the breeze. Oh, leave it there. Likewise on the back. So I'm using my windows almost like sort of sails to catch and funnel the breeze. So I've got this lovely breeze passing through the house at the moment. The windows are covered just to keep the fierce sunlight out. They're not covered on the back, that's facing north, that's fine. The breeze is so good that a second ago I've got a pile of papers on my little I've got a tiny little writing table next to the sofa. It's just all gone flying. But yeah, there are ways of staying cool or cooler that don't have to cost either the money or cost the earth. So I hope all of you are managing. And I know for some folk, they're in parts of the world where I know you've told me you simply cannot survive without the aircon. So you know what? We all have to do what we need to do to stay safe, because heat is dangerous. Now, the other thing the main point of turning the camera on today is we've been talking a little bit throughout the year about ways to cut down our fuel consumption. I've got an itch. I was stung by a bee a few days ago. My first ever bee sting. I've been stung by wasps before, but this was a bee sting. I felt really bad because that means the bee died, doesn't it? But I just didn't see it. I brushed past it, and anyway, yeah, we've talked a little bit about trying to cut down our fuel costs, and you know, this is not going to be an exhaustive list by any chance. We could go on and on and on for hours about the things to do, but you'll have heard most of them before, and I know that the vast majority of you, in fact all of you, are full of common sense. I know that there's a lot of you out there who are already, you know, very frugal and mindful already. But I just thought I'd mention these because I've got some actual numbers for you, money numbers, and I think that always helps, doesn't it, in terms of when we realise what things are costing and how easy it would be to ameliorate that cost. So I've got these figures from an energy company, and I suppose every energy company may vary ever so slightly, but let's just plough straight on in. So we all think about things like turning the lights off, and I really sincerely hope that's something we do. Turn the lights off in rooms you're not using. It's a no-brainer, surely. But this energy company, they reckon that just by turning off lights that aren't being used, each year we could save 25 quid. Now, okay, 25 quid is not a lot of money. In fact, the way our fuel bills are going, it's a drop in the ocean. But for every drop in the ocean, we can create a big puddle. And also, even if you think, oh, it's 25 quid, that's not going to be any help to me, is it? Save 25 quid. It's like, to me, it's a no-brainer. Every saving is a no-brainer. Now, for me at home, it's really easy because it's just me here. I don't have anyone to nag. And I know that there's going to be loads of you who say, oh, my husband is the worst culprit. He never turns the lights off. Oh, the kids are terrible. They never turn the lights off. Sit down with them and tell them about these figures. If you've got a smart meter, you could literally turn everything off in your house and then put lights on to show the other members of your household just how much you're consuming by leaving the lights on. And you know what, if it's your kids and they're of an age to understand, and you know, if they're kind of teens and they get pocket money and they're of an age to understand this, you could start fining them. Start fining your kids for leaving the lights on. If you work it out that, you know, oh, it's 2p for 10 minutes or whatever, it's more than that probably, isn't it? Dock it from their pocket money. Get the point through to them. I know, I'm harsh, aren't I? If I'd been a mother, I would have been so strict with my kids, but also very creative and lax with them too. But yeah, turning the lights off, it's a no-brainer. Really simple thing. turning the washing machine down to 30 degrees or even lower if you can, just to go from 40 degrees to 30 degrees. Oh, I didn't get... That can save £16 a year, but what I didn't check with them was how many washing loads is that based on. Really sorry. Oh, I haven't done my research very well, have I? But, okay, just turn it down. It's going to save a little bit. So just those two things, there we've got 41 quid saving. Again, there might be people out there thinking, but 41 quid's nothing. If we got into October and I said to all of you, who would like a £41 voucher towards their electricity bill? Everyone would put their hand up and say, yeah, I'd like that, thank you very much. Give yourself your own voucher. Turn the lights off, turn the washing machine down. Now this is a really interesting one. I found out about, I think 5 years ago, but I've got figures for it now. I didn't know the actual figures. I had my new boiler put in 6 years ago, and it's a combi boiler. It does my hot water and my central heating, so my radiators. Runs on gas. So I'd had it installed, and then around about 1 year later I had my fabulous man come back to do the service, an annual service, make sure everything is running, you know, as brilliantly and as economically as possible. Great. And it was on that visit that he said to me, he sort of went, oh, are you sure you want your water on so hot? I said, what? So I don't know if it was a factory setting, but my water temperature was set at 70 degrees. Bare hands can tolerate about 40 degrees. So that when you're running your tap for washing up or running a bottle, you're at that point where it's like, oh, scalding hot, I need to add some cold. That's around about 40 degrees. So really, there's zero reason to have our water set at 70 degrees. Turn it down. So at the time, at the time we agreed, and I said, no, I don't need it on that hot. What do you recommend? I didn't really, have an idea. He recommended 55, so we turned it down to 55. And to be honest, in terms of, I didn't notice any difference. I run the hot tap, the water is plenty hot for washing up. I run my bath or the hand basin, the water's plenty hot. Run a bath, I need to add cold, plenty hot. So I recently, last October, when the first of these price caps, when it all started going wonky, I actually turned it down to 50 degrees. And again, I've not really noticed any difference in terms of when I run the bath. Oh, the water's not hot enough. I'm going to experiment actually. I think I'm going to try it down to 45 degrees, knowing that our tolerance is around about 40. Now here's the thing. Let me see, I need to look at my numbers. So, each degree that we turn our water down by can save us £4 a year. Again, £4 sounds like nothing. But going from 70 down to 50 degrees, that's 20 times 4, that's 80 quid. That's an £80 saving just from reducing the temperature of the water. I mean, goodness knows why it was on 70 in the first place. And like I say, maybe it was a factory setting. So I think that's a really good tip, and probably not one that everybody knows or has heard of. I certainly hadn't until 5 years ago. I had no idea that I could adjust the temperature that the water came out of the tap. Brilliant. So with those three things so far, the boiler, the washing machine, and turning my lights off, let's do some quick maths. 80, 105, that's 121 over the year. Yeah, I'm in for 121 quid for a saving. What else? Oh, this is the big one. Some people will be more able to tolerate this than others. It just depends, Like I was just saying a minute ago, I love summer, I love the warmth. I hate cold. I loathe being cold. This heat, it's quite like, it's a bit much, but I would rather this than be sitting in my home shivering. I cannot stand it. And I find as well that once I start to get cold, it's really hard to get warm again. So I can put layers and layers on in terms of clothing layers. I'll put 3 pairs of socks on. I'll sit with a hot water bottle on my lap with a blanket over me. But once I'm cold, I'm cold. And the only way to get warm again is a hot bath. So some of you, like I say, some of you will tolerate this better than others. But turning the heating down, not off, turning it down. So apparently, again, according to Utilita, turning our heating down by 1 degree over the course of a year could save us £158. Staggering. Now the other thing, I don't have any figures for this, sorry. Oh, I'm a bad researcher today, aren't I? I blame the heat. The other thing too that is often talked about, I know it's been talked about on the Martin Lewis Money Supermarket website, and they went and spoke to different companies, is it better to keep your heating on all the time but keep it on low and it's sort of consistent, or is it better to turn the heating on for short periods when you need it? And it seems now that the general consensus is it's better to turn the heating on when you need it. So, and that's how I've always done it. So for instance, most heating for most of us, we'll have some sort of timer. So when I was working as a nurse, my heating would come on at 3:30 in the morning and go off at 4 in the morning. Was it 3:30 till 4? It might have been 3:30 till 4:30. I'm just trying to remember my hours. But basically, it came on for half an hour before I got up in the morning, so that when I get up at 4 in the morning, the place, that freezingness, the edge has been taken off. It's a nice temperature for me to get dressed, have my breakfast, do my face, whatever it is. And then it's off and I go off to work. And then it's set to come on for about half an hour before I get home and continue for about half an hour to an hour after I've got home. It was for half an hour after I got home, so it was set to be on for an hour in the evening. If I was coming home, so it would come on for 9:30, so I'd get home at 10, nice and warm, goes off at 10:30 because I'm going to have a bath, go to bed, be in bed by midnight. If I wasn't at work the next day, if I was going to have a bit of a later night and be up till sort of 2 or 3 in the morning, I might just override it and leave it on for another 1 more hour. But yeah, the consensus now seems to be that turning the heating on for shorter periods for when you really need it and want it, rather than having it on all the time. Now, of course, there will be some instances, I know this from Auntie Teapot, our older friends and relatives, our friends who are sort of disabled, housebound, what have you, they are going to need the heating on way more than those of us who are active, moving around, out of the house, etc., etc. We have to tailor all this, of course, that I can only speak for myself, but acknowledge that for other people it's going to be different. So yeah, think about turning the heating down by 1 degree and having it on for a shorter length of time when you actually need it. And then of course, every sofa should have big piles of blankets and cozy stuff on it anyway. Right now, if you don't have that kind, if you don't have extra and spare blankets, if you've got really thin flimsy curtains, this is going to be an expense, but hopefully a smaller one. Start looking now in charity shops. If you're in a charity shop, go and look, because most of them do a household linen section. Excuse me. Keep an eye out, because it might be that you can pick up a pair of second-hand curtains, really thick, good quality second-hand curtains for £10. Yeah, I know that means spending £10, but if having those curtains is going to keep your home just a little bit warmer, if it means that you can keep your heating off for an extra half an hour, keep it off for half an hour, that saving will pay. Likewise, when you're at the charity shop, all of mine do these. You'll often see lovely crochet blankets, all sorts of different blankets. You know, think about maybe picking up an extra 2 or 3 blankets now in the summer when a lot of people won't be thinking about blankets and thick curtains. Pick them up now and have them ready for the winter for when it does get chilly. And the other thing with curtains, if you've got really thin, flimsy curtains, think about lining them. You know, give an extra little layer. Perhaps in your cupboard you've got some kind of worn sheets or some sheets you're not using anymore because you just don't like them, whatever it is. You can use an old sheet to line a curtain. You're not going to see it. It's going to be showing out to the street side, and who cares what anyone walking past thinks about your curtains? Who cares? This is all about keeping ourselves warm. So again, it's one of those things. Think about it now. If you're handy with the sewing machine, if you're not handy with the sewing machine and you've got a friend who is, perhaps you can do a little trade-off and ask a friend, would you be able to line these curtains for me? And I'm more than happy to babysit for you next weekend. You know, do a little trade-off. But yeah, get the curtains lined now in readiness for the winter. Excuse me while I have a glug. I think of all of those, the big one for me was the turning the water down. Ah, yes, really important one. This is one of my bugbears for waste. Unplug things. So, you know, people talk about this all the time. It's like, don't leave things on standby. If, you know, phone charges, all these things we charge these days, phones, tablets, Kindles, all of these things, don't just plug it in to charge overnight while you go off to bed. Let's say you're in bed for 8 hours. It does not take 8 hours to charge your phone. Yeah, it might seem convenient, just do it while you're in bed. How long does it actually take to charge a phone? An hour? Mine's probably even less than that. Whenever I'm charging my phone, I do it in here whilst I'm working, and then I know it is about an hour, but I'll have a little look over every now and again. I'll have a little look, see, is it done, and the minute it's done charging, boom, out of the wall. We are wasting pounds, not just pennies, we are wasting pounds leaving our chargers in. TVs, stereos. I just realised how old I sound that I use a stereo. I don't mean old as in, yeah, old as in age, but old as in old school. Your stereo, hi-fi, whatever it is you play your music on. All of these things, when you've finished either playing your music or, you know, watching your TV show or your DVD player, if you've watched a DVD, if you're not in the habit, get into the habit, unplug it all. It takes 2 seconds. But it does, so let me see, from Utility have suggested, now again, this is probably based on an average family. What is an average family? But they reckon that not leaving things on standby can save £54 a year. That's a huge amount of money. For what reason? Just because you turned the telly off and went to bed. Turn the telly off and unplug it. I literally have nothing plugged in apart from my freezers. One of them is not plugged in at the moment, it's empty. This is something else I do. I have 3 freezers, you know, because I'm self-sufficient. But at this time of year, I'm actually thinking I can get the other one. The inbuilt one is smaller. I think I can transfer all of that now to my big silver one and get that one turned off too, because this is last year's produce. Apart from broad beans, that's this year's produce. So as soon as one freezer is even half empty, I'm trying to jiggle it to put into the other freezers. A full freezer runs more economically anyway. Get it turned off. But yeah, the point I was trying to make is my freezers and my fridge stay plugged in and on. Everything else, the minute I've stopped using it, unplugged. So the computer on the desk, it's on at the moment because I was just doing some work. I'll finish my work, unplug. If I watch a DVD later, when I watch a DVD, yeah. If I watch a DVD later, when I finish watching it, unplug, done. If I put the radio on to listen to some of the Tour de France, when I finish listening, turn it off, unplug. It's a habit. It's like turning off lights. So yeah, if you're not in that habit, naughty, if you're in the habit of putting things to charge overnight, especially because it doesn't take that long, get into the habit. And if you can't remember about the standby, well, you don't need to if you're unplugging it. The toaster, unplug. It's only ever plugged in to put my toast in. Finish the toast, unplug. Get into the habit. Okay, so, oh, and there was one other thing I wanted to quickly mention. I thought this was going to, ouch, I thought this was going to be a real quickie today because, like I said, there's myriad other ways of saving, of course, but I thought these were some particularly good ones. I know, for example, that a load of us at the moment are trying not to use our ovens. If we do use our oven, we're trying to fill it with all sorts of other things. Obviously, and now just talking about being on the hob, batch cooking makes more sense than ever before. If I'm cooking, let's say I'm making a curry on the hob, and let's say the whole process takes half an hour. I'm using up half an hour's worth of fuel. If I make loads extra, I can put it in the fridge, I can put some in the freezer. If it's in the freezer, I'll take it out the night before to defrost in the fridge. When it comes to reheating it, it's only going to take about 5 or 6 minutes to reheat. So in theory, I could have one, I mean obviously I'm going to have different foods, but I'm going to have that one meal that took half an hour to make, and then I'm going to have it over successive evenings just doing a 5-minute, 6-minute heat through, rather than half an hour of cooking every night. So yeah, batch cook whenever possible. And the other thing, and I know loads of you notice it in the background in videos, is my 3-tier steamer. I love my steamer. It's one of the first things I bought when I left home, so it's ancient, 30 more years old. And I remember at the time, I felt so grown up, apart from anything. It was about £20. It was really expensive. But it's so solid, and I've been using it for years and years and years. The great thing about the steamer is I can cook 3 different things, but it's all on one ring. And again, I don't want to patronise anyone because I know a ton of you, this will be your sort of habit anyway. But it's great, I can stack them up. And there are times when, even when I'm using my cast iron pan, the cast iron pans are great, because if I am doing a half-hour cook of something, I actually turn the power off at 25 minutes because the cast iron is so great at retaining the heat. So if I'm using the cast iron, I'll still use the top sections of my steamer to whack over the top because they just about fit into my cast iron pans. Great. So yeah, I don't think we can go completely without our ovens. There are going to be some things we want to cook in there. But if we do, let's try and think laterally as well and think, right, what else can I get in there? I think I was mentioning this the other day that, say with some of the squash, if I'm going to have the oven on, put a tray in the bottom and roast a ton of the squash, because once it's roasted, I can scoop out that flesh into one of my little Tupperwares, into the freezer. It's ready roasted squash. Great. So we may be using our ovens a bit, but fill them if we do. Otherwise, think about batch cooking and think about cooking in a stack using a steamer. And if you don't have one, it's another thing you can keep an eye out for in charity shops. They do turn up from time to time. And certainly, what I have seen, in fact, I saw one in my local charity shop a couple of days ago, if I remember correctly. There was one section of a steamer. It was one of the holy sections, so one of the top bits. It didn't have its bottom part. But if you see just an odd one like that, and I think they wanted like £1.50 for it, measure your current pans. So like if you've got your cast iron pans, measure them, make a note. So if you see an odd bit of steamer while you're out on your travels, measure it, go, actually this would fit into my current pans, pick it up, pick up a bargain. it's all about picking up those little bargains, making those little investments that will save for you later on, but only if you need them. Remember, it's not about what you want, it's about what you need. And I think thick curtains, blankets, steamer cookware that's going to help you to reduce it to just one ring cooking, those are needs. You're allowed. All right, lovelies, I think, yes, that will do for today, but I'm just going to do a little, quick bit of maths. 158, it's nearly 160, 240, 294, 3. Those few things I mentioned earlier could be a saving of 330 odd quid. So when what I was saying about £4, that doesn't seem like much of a saving when you start to add them all together. I think if you do nothing else after this video, some of those things are habits, the lights, unplugging things, what have you. But if you do nothing else, because it was a complete shock to me a few years ago, go and check your water temperature on your boiler. None of us need our water at 70 degrees. That is a complete, total, utter waste of fuel. At the moment, like I said, mine's on 50 and I'm finding it absolutely perfectly adequate. I'm going to experiment. I'm going to turn it down to 45 and see if that will help, because 1 degree is £4. So if I turn it down another 5 degrees, that might be another 20 quid saving. All right, happy cutting your cloth to suit your needs, everybody. Try and, yeah, like I said, I know most of you will probably be doing all these things anyway. But even if there's only one of you out there who's learning today about the water temperature, then it was worth making this video. Thank you. It's hot. Right, I need to go and have a siesta. I will see you all again really soon, I hope. At the moment, I don't know whether it's going to be in the garden or not, because I'm trying to be sensible. It's, you know, it's gorgeous, roasty out there. Pretty much at the moment, all that's happening is watering. If I can persuade my body to get out of bed at 4:30 one of these mornings to get me down to the garden for 5:30, 6 a.m, then there may be some more gardening videos. Otherwise, the garden's on holiday. All right, lovelies, I will see you all again really soon in whatever capacity. Until then, please look after yourselves, look after each other, keep smiling at strangers. Cheerio.